Burdock, we have Philip, we have the crew. We are on the air. We are operating in decentralized mode. You are listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. This is Studio B, and we're about to proceed with the story behind the story. And covering for Dr. Odd is the fun-loving group that we always have. I'm going to let them take it away right now.
Oh, thank you there, Mr. Rowe. Howdy, howdy.
Appreciate it, Mr. Rowe. This is the story behind the story with Dr. H.U. Watt. You've got Phil and Major James Burdock reporting from the Philippines. And we also have, if available, I see he was added, someone who might be able to chime in with us a little later, Jim Watkins, the owner of HN, may have a couple of things to talk about. A lot of people have been focused on that, but we'll let Jim, if he can, talk about that later. We've got some breaking news in the media, Phil. I don't know if you saw this. Shepard Smith is now out of Fox News, and I think that this,
Really?
This comes as I think a lot of people really are very happy about that. His ratings were tanking, and he's not a commentator. He's supposed to be reporting the news. He's different than, say, a Bill O'Reilly or a Tucker Carlson or a Sean Hannity. And he kind of turned himself into that in one day. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
Basically he outed himself live on the air just with Trump anger. And he had been, most people thought he was a conservative. Most people thought he was a little, maybe not ultra, but most people thought he was kind of right-wing. But he's a straight news reporter. And so, therefore, we shouldn't really know, and he shouldn't be talking about it. So it was that one day when Trump went after the media, and it was, I can't remember the exact scenario, but it had something to do with CNN, and Trump said something about, it was one of the first quotes where he said that the CNN and the likes of them are actually a threat to the United States. And I think a lot of people kind of agree with that, but Trump said it, and boy, I happened to be watching the show at that time, and he was incensed, he was infuriated, and he's never gotten over it. It was like Trump being elected, and, he's catching up with the liberals. And so since then, his broadcast has been really anti-Trump, as anti-Trump as he could get on Fox News. So I think a lot of people are really happy to see him go, and that's pretty big news for the media, because the big question is who's going to replace him, and there's a lot of very, very good people. But
probably has to be off a car payment or something 3 years after.
What's that? I'm sorry, is this Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, sorry, I'm driving. I got stuck 9 hours in L.A. today trying to get out of L.A. It was like escape from L.A. I was in Florence and Normandy, and then they closed the I-5, so I was making my way north. I got to Pacoima at breakfast, and then headed out to Simi Valley. But Shepard Smith, man, he's just paying off his car. And because Trump got elected 3 years ago. It's time for the next election. So, he just had a car payment or a mortgage or something. So he can resign now. He's paid it off. You guys, let me know if you need me, because I know I got a lot of car noise here.
No sweat. Well, Jim, you're welcome to jump in at any time. That's Jim Watkins again for our listeners, the owner of HN and a news site, which he might want to talk about later. But, I'm glad to hear you're on, Jim. Sorry to hear about Los Angeles, but hopefully things are clearing up in the direction that you're going. So, yeah. But interesting stuff going on.
I got a flower in my hair.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. You gotta, Well, we can't talk. I can make a couple of cracks right now, but it's just not safe. It's just not safe. But, well, good luck. Just watch the sidewalks and, watch out for the syringes, feces, and dead people. So good luck with that.
I could say, Burdog, isn't it nice living in a developing country instead of third world conditions in certain parts of the U.S.?
Oh my God! A lot of times that I come back here when I've been visiting the U.S., I spend a little time in San Francisco, and I can't wait to get out. And I try not to go direct. I try not to stop in San Francisco on the way over because it tends to depress me. If I stop in San Francisco and then go to my destination, then I seem to be depressed. So I try right now for the last several times that I've flown over, I go direct to my destination and then take care of what I need to in San Francisco on the way out. But I can't wait to get back here because things are clean and the people are friendly and happy. At least where we live, I mean, things might be a little disorganized and they might not be Singapore clean, but they're not San Francisco dirty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a big difference. So anyway, I'm just rounding that off.
I'm pulling that trailer up there. I got to take some equipment out and take it off to Utah Data Center.
Oh, yeah. Well, good luck with that. Everybody's, we'll maybe check back in with us. We'll keep you on and hop back in and whenever you...
I leased a old ICBM bunker, and so now it's gonna be the 8-Coon headquarters. So I'm just going there to pick up some equipment. Then I'll be out of there. But yeah, I'm not going to let them co-op my city. I lived there for years, and I love San Francisco, and they can clean their streets up. And the people want to come there from other countries. They can clean their act up and come there from other countries. That's why they want to go there. Don't bring your crap with you. Leave it at home.
Yeah, totally agreed. I mean, San Francisco has always been a beautiful city to me, and I'm just sorry to see that it's in the state it is. But it should get to a point where people come to their senses and start doing something about the madness in politics over there. But we can't let them own it. We can't let them. They're just taking it over for the time being. But I think hopefully people will come to their senses. Best of luck to you with that, Jim. Hop in anytime, and everybody is really waiting, especially people here at Revolution Radio. Our listeners are very eager to get news as to what's going on. So we don't want to ask any questions, just whatever you can offer us when you get a chance. Just hop in anytime. So that's Jim Watkins working on diligently. I'm sorry?
I'll be here.
So that's
just ask for me, and I'm listening in. I'm just driving. It's a straight shot. I just left, gee whiz, what was it, Grapevine. So it'll be a while.
All righty. Well, we've got 2 hours of fun. It's going to be. I know Phil is chomping at the bit. We met yesterday and talked a little bit about some of the stuff that's happened since our last show. Actually, we both hosted that as well, and it was a very entertaining show. But a lot's happened this week. We've got. I just wanted to bring out that breaking news about Fox News. I think that they're obviously going to be replacing somebody, but it's interesting to see that Trump has kind of really hit on Fox News lately, and I think the polls really got under his skin. But I think the executives know that this is a game, and you can't always be Trump's buddy. He's going to lash out if you say something he doesn't like. So anyway, we'll be looking at that situation. It'll be interesting because it is a huge slot, and the person that takes that slot will have some pretty serious influence, media influence, especially when it comes to Republicans. And, of course, we'll be talking about impeachment. We need to cover that. But why don't I pass it over to Phil? He's here again in the Philippines with me. And, I mean, which one do you want to hammer on first? We talked about a couple of things yesterday, but we've got a couple of things that we're not going to be talking about.
Right.
But, pretty much anything, I mean, that's burning outside of those. Well,
but yeah,
take it away, Phil.
You know what? One of the biggest things that's been weighing on my mind this week, and what's kept me up till 4 a.m. pretty much every night, pressing F5 in my news feeds, is, I've been following the Hong Kong thing since June. And I'm just going to go ahead and make it very clear. Yes, I support Taiwan and Hong Kong and their right to freedom and democracy. And I think that we're heading towards a really, really dangerous precedent. Apparently,
you fired. You fired.
Apparently, there's the American corporations like ESPN and the NBA and Tiffany's and Activision Blizzard, and you know what? I can't even keep up with them anymore because it's a new one every other day, are completely bowing down to Chinese influence because of course, the boatloads of yuan. China's the fastest growing economy in the world, and here's the thing, it's almost poetic irony because, like, wouldn't it be ironic if capitalism fell because Beijing sold communism at a bottom of the barrel discount rate, and then the crony capitalists in their infinite greed are like, wow, that communism is almost free. I'm sure I could make a profit, and that's exactly what's going on right now. You got a Blizzard, of course, for folks that aren't aware, Activision and Blizzard, huge game company. Blizzard's the guys that made World of Warcraft, one of the most popular MMOs in history. And they apparently, it's in the news, but not being talked about a lot. I find that interesting that, people don't want to talk about that, probably because the news companies are connected to companies that are receiving Chinese money too. But yeah, so Blizzard / Activision, what happened was there's a player called Blitzchung, and he's from Hong Kong, and he's playing a Blizzard game. He's a professional player. This is how he makes money. This is his livelihood. Anyway, so he decides to say something about, free Hong Kong, and he speaks out in favor of Hong Kong democracy, and then Blizzard bans him. Blizzard has suspended him for a year. It got so bad, like so many people got upset at this that they started to en masse, we have people deleting their Blizzard accounts. So a couple of days ago, Blizzard won't allow you to delete your account without uploading personal information and showing government ID, and oh my gosh. Now of course they've made a statement saying that China has nothing to do with their decision, which I find real funny considering BlizzCon has said they will kick anyone out if they cosplay as Winnie the Pooh at BlizzCon. Wait a minute. So if it's not if it's not because of Xi Jinping, then why? Nobody has banned Winnie the Pooh except for China.
I have an idea on that too. If you get to it, they're actually investing into public companies with shell corporations, the Chinese government, and we need some diggers out there. You guys love to dig out there, listening in. That's what it's all about. You dig into who's investing in these public companies that are booting people for talking bad about China. The investors, and you'll find out really quick that these are the people selling out America.
Yep.
And they should be confronted publicly for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, China's got the social credit score. They're now applying that to U.S. businesses. So U.S. businesses that do not comply with Beijing's demands on censorship and et cetera are not going to get Chinese business. They're not going to be able to tap into the largest market in the world. I mean, you know, they're holding his friends.
I'm in big
I'm sorry,
trouble
what was
with
that,
the
Jim?
credit score. I'm in big trouble if there's a social credit score. I'm fully flawed.
Yeah. Right. Well, Fast Company already wrote about that, how insurance companies, Uber, Airbnb, there are multiple U.S. companies. There are multiple, mainly Silicon Valley firms. And this wasn't in Breitbart. This wasn't, you know, some, you know, Zero Hedge or what some people consider to be fringe or far right. So, no, this is Fast Company, which is basically like the Business Insider Forbes for hip 20s and 30s entrepreneurs. Okay, so this is a mainstream center-left publication saying, "Hey guys, this social currency thing." What's that? Fast Company was it? Yeah.
Is Fast Company a Condé Nast publication?
I don't know. Oh my God! Now Condé Nast has got some Condé Nast
also owns Reddit.
Uh huh.
And they also own all those magazines that you read at the dentist office. You
Vogue
go to the dentist,
and I'm not sure.
Condé Nast
Vogue,
Traveler.
Yeah.
You know.
The big ones, yeah.
And Reddit. So there you go when you get around to it. But Fast
Just
Company,
like how Amazon
maybe it's CDNet.
Tomatoes,
CDNet,
yeah.
I don't.
But yeah, so that. Oh no, didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah, this is going to be a bad situation if we don't stand up to this. If we don't nip this in the bud, you know, I think I forgot to mention Apple. You know, Apple has banned apps because, you know, Quartz is you know, doing favorable coverage on Hong Kong, and China doesn't like that. So Apple says, okay, we will ban it for you. And what's blowing my mind, and I find really scary, is so-called, there was an account on Twitter, America First, and I see self-proclaimed, quote-unquote, libertarians saying, hey, a company can do what they want. Yeah, but are you seriously in favor of Chinese-style censorship? Because that is not America First or libertarian. It's not. It never will be. It never has been.
Yeah, I totally agree on that, Phil. This is some really creepy stuff, and I came across it early this morning, about 4:00 this morning here in the Philippines, and I had a problem with a device that I normally use Skype on, and I really isolate Skype. I only use it on that one device. And I had a problem with that. So I figure, okay, I'll just log in on another machine. Well, the Skype account that I have is so old that it didn't have all of this need for authentication, and I was lucky enough to just have that one device on it for the longest time. And so when I go to log in, of course, I get into this authentication loop. And what they're telling you is, oh, hey, call us being paranoid, but we're looking out for you. No, they're not really looking out for you, because normally if you've got a username and a password, and I can understand maybe some email verification perhaps, but this is ridiculous what they want when to get verified, and there's nothing on it. I purposefully used a machine that I had Skype running on that account before, so there's no reason. They're just seeing a new IP or something like that. And I submit to you, this really doesn't have anything to do with security, because if I have access, if I've got the password, I should be able to get in, especially if it's from a machine that's been using it, hasn't used it for a while. But it's nuts. And I see this happening more and more. because the end result is they're wanting more and more information from you. And they're selling it. We all know that. They're selling it, and it's valuable.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is, and I submit to you that the banks are involved in this too, because most of us who have been out there traveling, if you've got cards, and especially if you're traveling internationally in certain places, especially here in the Philippines, you're going to want 2 or 3, at least 2 different cards, because you're randomly going to get a fraud, your account's going to get shut down because of the fraud department. But I can see part of that. I can. But the volume and the degree to which it happens, and the fact that they freely admit that they have, they say they have no control over it. Now, maybe the people that are in the fraud department and their access to the system, they don't have control over it, and they don't have control over the process and what happens, because it seems that, it's automated. But the scale at which that is happening right now is ridiculous. And it is, again, one of those things where they're taking, this is a really scary thing when the banks are doing it, because I can understand a charge going off that's non-recurring, that happens if you start a non-recurring charge, or maybe it's the first charge in the U.S., and you happen to be in another country and they fire off on the same day. I can understand a flag for that. I've been flagged for everything. I've been shut down. I've talked to those people so many times in so many banks, and it's just ridiculous. But when you think about it, what happens when they start plugging in your social credit into a system that is determining whether or not you have access to your money? Okay. Now, they may start with, he was convicted of fraud, X number of years ago or something. They'll start with something like that. But when it goes into your social credit score, basically what this invisible number that is going to be shared, how much money do you think that's going to be worth? It's the cumulative data that's worth the money. I mean, not just all of the little bits of data that their bots are analyzing. It's your cumulative score that's going to be worth money. It's that access to that database that's worth a ton of money. And these people, mind you, every other aspect of their business is dependent upon fraud. So you have to expect that they're going to, and at one point, approach a bank and say, hey, listen, we'll sell you this information. And they'll put it in and plug it in and realize that it might work for fraud, but then it might work, for, hey, listen, we don't like people that are convicted of weapons violations, or we don't like people that are talking about guns on the internet. We don't like people that have alternative points of view. And we can make their life so much, terribly difficult. And there's really no downside to the bank because they're sitting on your money. That's more money that you can't spend that they can loan out. So it is, it's some really creepy stuff happening right now. And of course, we know what's happening in China. It's in the tens of millions now, and of people affected by this, who have been severely affected. They can't get married. They can't get a bank account. They can't get a job. They can't travel, passport, nothing. Can't rent an apartment. So I expect that that's what we're looking at here. And when we talk about globalism, that is globalism, okay? That's every thought of that. So that's just something to chew on when you're talking about social credit scores. When that gets into banking, folks, wow, think of the repercussions. Your money is really at stake here, and that's a good argument for cryptocurrency.
Right. But yeah, it's people don't think enough about big data. Big oil came from dinosaurs and is becoming a dinosaur. The real big money industry for the 21st century is big data. And with the algorithms keep getting smarter. I'm not going to mention what I was posting about. let me just say I was posting the wrong opinions at Facebook, and I kept getting weird error messages. And I finally had to just screen cap the message that I'm not going to mention on the radio. And wonder of wonders, another dissident friend of mine posts on that, on that thread, and she's like, yeah, and I was talking about, it was something about Medicare in California. There's certain things, Facebook, you'll just keep having, what do you call it? Basically, I completely lost my train of thought there. But yeah, crap. No, I did. I absolutely lost it. Brain fart.
Well, there's something. I mean, I think if you boil it down, that's really what we're fighting against. I mean, you can talk about certainly the freedom of speech, but what is the motivation to take it away? What is the financial motivation? What is the political motivation? And the scariest part about it is it seems to me that the real power here, at least what I've witnessed recently, the real power is the media making the decisions on who can say what, and it's not the government. And so that's where we've got a real problem, especially when you've got media companies.
Right, it's self-censorship.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
and self-censorship by corporations circumvents the First Amendment, so they don't see. They're not going to get rid of the Bill of Rights. They're just going to let corporations make them obsolete. We'll still have a Bill of Rights. You just won't be able to reach the shelf they're on.
That's exactly true, and the same thing's happening for the Second Amendment, gentlemen.
You can say whatever you want, but you can only peaceably assemble here in the San Joaquin Valley next to the stockyard. Wow,
yeah, no kidding. Well, look. I think you're cutting out a bit there, Jim. But if you look at the Second Amendment, I mean, here's a group of people. You've only got maybe 20% of the population owns a firearm, but and it's again, it's one of those deals where you're already in the minority, so people really, it's not high on their list. A lot of people don't like the idea of the Second Amendment being violated, but they're not personally affected by it. So therefore, it's not really high on their list. So it's the same thing with a couple of other issues that, for example, if you're a smoker, that you're persona non grata and they can tax you. You can be the highest taxed group of people on earth. And, you can't do anything about it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the only thing I would say with the smokers is that the smokers should come out and say, hey, listen, we need to remind people that we are the highest taxed people on earth, and the trillions of dollars that have gone into taxation of tobacco products since they started it, and where did all that money go? Did it go to lung cancer research? And by the way, a lot of people die from lung cancer that don't smoke, so this would be helping a lot of other people. But no, we can't even research lung cancer because, smoking's bad and you're evil. So it's one of those situations. But getting back to the Second Amendment, they're doing the same thing. It's companies that are being pressured, like Dick's Sporting Goods, who just announced that they destroyed over $15 million. They announced that they're not going to sell assault rifles, and I do have a real problem with it. In fact, actually, I'm going to explain that problem. I'll keep on track here, I promise, but I've got a problem with the term assault weapon, okay? Because if I assault you with a chainsaw, is it an assault chainsaw? If I assault you with a spoon, is it an assault spoon? Okay, I mean, an assault weapon is a gun,
pants, right?
It's a gun. Just say gun if you don't know what it is. You can say, and even the government, the government has no idea even the proper terminology. You've got people that are talking about AR-15 shooting, weighing 80 pounds and shooting 50 cal. That's, there's no such thing as an AR-15 50 cal. Okay, maybe somebody did a one-off, but there's no such thing. Anyway, the whole point is that Dick's Sporting Goods decided, okay, well, we're not going to sell any guns, and at first they said, well, we're going to raise the age to 21. Now, doesn't that sound like a little bit presumptuous of them and the government that they're raising the age of who can buy a gun in their stores? Okay, I mean, like, that's what they're doing, and that's like, now wait a minute, how did you get into the government side of this? And I guarantee you, these people like,
it's companies, yeah.
Well, it's people like Sleeping Giants, and who are being paid to, and of course these people are 100% anonymous, and they decree everyone who's not, they're doxing everybody, but of course nobody cares to ask who these people are. The Sleeping Giants. Those are the people that these powerful, very wealthy groups of people that are supported by God knows who, certainly the media, that use to shut down companies. So Dick's Sporting Goods goes and says, okay, we're not going to sell AR-15s anymore. And AR-15s is a typical weapon. It's usually a long rifle with a magazine. It's semi-automatic. Most people know what it is. So, okay, bad business decision, and they lost a lot of money on it. Their stock didn't get affected, surprisingly, but God knows how they got away with that. But here's the kicker. They announced the other day, and this was, when everything died down, that not only did they had a whole stock of these weapons, and they actually destroyed them. They put $15 million worth of AR-15s into shredders. At least that's what the CEO is claiming. And he's just wanting brownie points for it. But you understand that the media has successfully, the end result is the media pressured Dick's Sporting Goods, and Dick's Sporting Goods is shredding weapons. That's not good. Okay, that is not good for the Second Amendment. That's exactly what the Democrats want to do. But yet, you're right, Phil. They're having private companies getting pressured into do it, and they're having the media do it for them.
It's been years that corporations have been running the government, and especially with Citizens United. Citizens United was a turning point when we decided that corporations were people, which means they have free speech, and campaign donations are free speech. That's like, okay, get this. Do you remember the study from Princeton University, one of the Ivies? There was a study that explained how because of Citizens United and corporate money, the United States is no longer a representative democracy. It is an oligarchy. Now, here's what's scary. It's been that way for decades, right? But when the sons of the oligarchs, during their tenure at the Ivies, are comfortable enough knowing that, you know what, guys, let's just take the mask off. That's scary, okay? I much prefer 20 years ago when I knew all this stuff was going on, but they were trying to keep it on the DL. It's getting to the point where, we don't have to hide anymore. What are you going to do? It's pretty frustrating, though. That and the whole gaslighting bit, we're being gaslit by the media and these corporations, and, like just the situation with Blizzard. And, these companies are completely lying about what they're doing and why. Facebook says they're not listening to you. Not only are they recording everything, but they're using third-party companies to transcribe all those recordings so they can feed them into their databases. Google, you remember that news story that disappeared about how Google had, was working on some quantum computer, and then it's like, oh, no, we aren't. Sorry. That was, nobody was supposed to say that, So, yeah, I mean, I remember being like 12 or 13 when I first read 1984. And at the time, in like the mid-90s, in the early and mid-90s, 1984 was just a book. Like the idea of being able to wake up and all your newspapers and your VHS tapes have been instantly changed overnight, you couldn't do that. But nobody has print hard copy media that you have to break into someone's house and replace anymore. Now it's all in the cloud. And that cloud is owned by the CI Amazon. You know how Bezos owns most of the cloud space. So he can, by he, I mean the CIA, of course, he can change whatever he wants overnight at any moment and none the wiser. I'm thankful that archiving sites still exist for now, but I don't think they will for long. They've made people scared of so many things. Free speech is dangerous. Conspiracy theorists are dangerous. Next thing you know, I swear, they're going to blame a shooting on archiving websites just so they can get people to rally against. Because archiving websites showing where, hey, you notice this respected news venue has said this, and then they changed their mind later and never retracted it. That happens all the time.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a premium
here's
on
the
in
deal
the
about
future.
this. It's not the majority.
Go ahead, Jim.
Sorry, I'm talking over you.
No.
It's not the majority of the people
please
that are. It's the noisiest people that are fighting back about this freedom of speech. It's because they have something to hide, and whereas I support LGBTQ people, they have something to hide. They're hiding their real gender. They're hiding this. They're hiding that. They don't want people talking about that. And the majority of the people in America that are pushing the outrage culture right now are the LGBTQ people. And whereas I like my friends that are LGBTQ, and I have employees that are, and it's okay. But the people pushing this outrage culture are only the people that have something to hide. If you've got something to hide, you're pushing to shut down free speech so that you can keep your secrets hidden. You don't want people talking about, ho, she's got a stinger. We don't want people talking about that. And you brought up that Apple. Apple is doing what for America? They're running some retail stores and employing a few people, and then they got some designers down there in a mountain home or wherever they're at these days, and then everybody else is employed in other countries, and then they bring their income to another country, and they don't pay tax in America. And how about that? What's up with that?
Right.
What exactly does this company that's got more money than most countries on earth doing for America? What are they doing for you? I don't use an Apple phone anymore. I got a Samsung phone. It's pretty good.
You know how much Amazon paid on taxes? About negative 1.9% after you count the subsidies. Whoa. A $1 trillion company got paid to steal from taxpayers? Yes, that's the America we live in.
Yeah, it's madness. All of this is for sale. All of it has to do with regulation. And Jim, that's such a good point that, people should be asking, what is your company doing? They should be asking that at stockholder meetings, what is your company doing for the United States of America? Now, of course, you've got the responsibility of bottom line. People have to make decisions, but it's incredibly important for people to understand how if you claim to be an American company, if you're incorporated here and you're getting your money from Americans, I think there should be there should be some transparency on that. Spotlight should be on those folks. So, yeah, I mean it's pretty funny on that. The one thing I know,
Murdoch, they have transparency with these public companies. You can look and you can see who their investors are. And that's a big deal. You can see who's investing in these giant realty trust corporations. You can see who's got the REIT money, and who likes to invest in real estate. By the way, is the red Chinese, and The Red Chinese
Yep.
are the biggest investors in our federal government. They're investing in our politicians, and they're investing
They
in
own
our
large
real
bits of
estate.
Africa and the Caribbeans. They own a good bit of the Northeast and parts of the West Coast. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's good segue though. We
Look
had
at this. You can do as a regular American, you can do a little bit of spend your bucks and make sure it's not on a company that is taking the money from overseas and then using it to wipe out the Bill of Rights here, because that's the way they do business in their country. Make sure you're not doing business with them. Do your best.
Absolutely.
That sounds like one of the first of the very many prominent channels that we should fire up when 8kun goes live, which Jim is working on. We've made some announcements. I'm not going to say anything else about that. But speaking of the Chinese, we had Mr. Rowe made a comment here, which is interesting, and this is right on topic, talking about the NBA and whether or not, should we kneel now when the Chinese anthem is being played? I mean, this stuff is getting ridiculous. But I mean, call me crazy, folks. Call me crazy here, but I'm going to say, what the hell? I don't follow basketball that much. I mean, it's not a big thing in my life. And all of a sudden, this stuff comes out, and I'm like, what the hell do the Chinese have to do with the National Basketball Association? I mean, I just didn't know anything about it. You got LeBron James wearing, what is it? I mean, I don't understand why the Chinese have anything to do with our basketball, aside from the fact that they like it and that they should be selling it. Now, I noticed that there was a channel here. I'm staying in a different place. I'm just checking out an apartment, and I'm looking at, just flipping through TV here, and I noticed that there was a channel here on Sky, the Filipino network, and Filipinos love basketball. And there was a blank channel, and I just noticed this message that came up and said, well, on October 1st, we stopped broadcasting because we had to go into negotiations with the NBA. And, excuse me, Phil, take over. I think I'm going to, wow.
Yeah,
just about to sneeze.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, the whole NBA thing, I agree. I don't care about sports. I'm not into basketball. And so when I saw the news story that China considering banning NBA, and you know what? I don't think they were considering it. I think they were just making sure that NBA was on the team, if you know what I mean. Because, they cracked the whip and Apple bowed. They cracked the whip and Tiffany's bowed. They cracked the whip, the Washington Wizards and ESPN and the 76ers. And so, they just wanted to test their sway. I think that's all that was, because
how about the
within
Washington Wizards, mind you?
Yeah. Guys were asked to leave.
Did they get less shootings in Washington when they changed from the Washington Bullets to the Washington Wizards?
No.
Were there all of a sudden less shootings in Washington, D.C.? I don't think so. I don't think it affected crime whatsoever to change the name of the team.
Yeah, and I mean, Mr. Rowe just typed this in our chat board here on the story behind the story. Yeah, and if you want to chime in, if you can, I don't know if you're in a spot to go ahead. I mean, it's pretty funny about kneeling. We're supposed to stand when the Chinese anthem is played. Again, I just had no idea that this is. I mean, and basketball. I mean, I don't know. Are they? I know that. Are they entrenched in baseball as well? I mean, baseball is the American pastime. Basketball is like the second American pastime. We'll give hockey to Canada. But, you know, I mean, and then football, obviously, I would say is, you know, number one. Yeah, you know, you got American football. So are they in, you know, what's the deal here? I mean, why are our sports, and why am I sitting here looking at a screen in the Philippines saying, hey, we're down because we can't pay the NBA enough money? And I mean, and where is that? Who are they paying it to? China, it seems like.
The sport here. I never see soccer here. I love that. You know, though everybody in the world, the number one sport is excuse me, it's football American is what we think of as football. But what we call soccer, that's the world's game. Everybody in the world loves that, except here. Here, the number one sport. If you see sports on a TV, it's going to be 70% of the time it's basketball, and then 30% of the time it's volleyball. But, you know, a large majority, it's always going to be, basketball, which is incredibly popular here. So, no, that's kind of heartbreaking a little bit, because I do know that, Filipinos love their basketball.
I mean,
it's because they have a special relationship with America. The other day I was in Washington, D.C., and I was walking around, and at the World War II Memorial, there is only one other country other than America on the World War II Memorial, and that's the Philippines. And it's sitting there, I believe, between Alaska and Puerto Rico. Think about that. It's the only American territory that's ever become its own country. They have a special relationship with America.
Pacific Theater.
And that
they also helped us win the
an American sport. It was to keep the athletes between baseball season and football season in shape. It was just like a practice sport, and people liked it. And you know what? I loved going to basketball games when I was a kid. I'd go to the Sonic games. That was bad.
So it sounds like your signal is fading out there a little bit, Jim. Unless that's me, but that is just.
I used to go to the basketball games. I'd go see Lenny Wilkins was the player coach for the Seattle Supersonics when I was a kid, and I used to love him. And we had like Pete Cross and and Spencer Haywood, Super Jock, and all of these super cool guys. It's where I learned to smoke. They had the cigarette girls passing out cigarettes, and it was a great thing. Oh, and speaking of smoking, if you've got cancer, you don't tell your doctors that you smoke, because they won't find out the real reason you're sick. You can't tell them, or they won't test. They will just check the smoker, and then you just go into the tally, and that might not be the reason you have it. You might have HPV, you might have lymphoma, you might have some other kind of cancer, and they're just going to check it off as smoking if you tell them you're a smoker. So when you go to the doctor, don't tell them you're a smoker. Make them work for it.
Copy that, Jim.
Hang up. I'm in a bad place here.
No sweat. Yeah, I mean, fascinating stuff. It's just, wow, how much influence the Chinese are having over us. And let's talk a little bit about fentanyl. Okay. Now, most of it is produced in China. There are some legal uses for this drug. There's some legal things that are, fentanyl can be used for. But most of the fentanyl that is coming into the United States, most of it, through the Mexican border, because Mexico really doesn't, you can pretty much ship anything into Mexico. I've found myself in countries in Central and South America, and really accidentally have gone there because I've done a bit of sailing. And if you're flying and sailing and you're hopping around islands, it's really easy to go into another country, and especially if you make landfall and not think that, oh, well, you're in another country and something comes up and you have to go ashore, and then you have to go back. So it's, you find yourself, like, just by accident how easy it is to get yourself, or, Lord knows, I mean, the corruption down there, how easy it is to get a shipping container with fentanyl, which this stuff per pound kills so many people. Now, all of this is made in China, and there doesn't seem to be any regulation, any sort of drug enforcement agency in China. Somebody ought to take a look at, well, maybe they don't care. They're probably shipping it out to different areas of China, people that they want to kill off. But they're certainly shipping it to the United States. And how many fentanyl-related deaths did we have last year? So I submit to you that that's a threat. That's
right.
And most of it are.
There's more to it than that. We're still at war with China. People don't realize that we have a ceasefire, but we don't have a peace treaty with China since the Korea. We beat straight to the Yalu River. We conquered the entire Korean peninsula, and then the Chinese lined 1 million infantrymen up on the Yalu River and sent them over and beat us back to Busan, and then we had to fight back up to the 38th parallel, and then they have a ceasefire. They're at Panmunjom, where President Kim and President Trump shook hands the other day. But we had taken that entire peninsula until the Chinese intervened. So we never signed a peace treaty there. We're still at war with them. And they are our most dangerous enemy. And we're doing business with them. And our politicians are too. And some of those politicians in Washington know it, and they're concerned and scared about it, and they don't know what to do about it. That's the first thing they're asking is, where are you getting your money? Are you getting it from China? Are you getting it from Russia? Are you getting it from Venezuela? These places, they want to know. But the other ones are getting it from there, and they're getting it by hook and by crook. And you got to get those people out of there, guys. Do something about it. Vote for someone else. It doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats. Just vote for someone else.
Yeah, you certainly don't want somebody that was able to secure $1.5 billion in Chinese money, who, he certainly, and of course, surprisingly, I watched Trump's speech the other day, and I think it was yesterday. He was in Minnesota, and everybody's waiting. I was in a Right Side Broadcasting Network's feed online, their YouTube feed, and you see all the comments, and these people had already seen what's going on, and everybody in there was just, right when Trump was going off, they were saying, "Where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? Where's Hunter?" And of course, they knew that this was going to be part of the speech. And, you go into it, and that's what it is. Basically, what you need is somebody, like Joe Biden, to send their son over and collect all of that money, millions of dollars. And surprisingly, I would think it would be a little bit more. But and then, of course, secure $1.5 billion. With no experience whatsoever on Wall Street. This guy, he's just a nobody, really. I mean, he's a nobody in the sense of his own life, his own academia, his own life accomplishments, his own intelligence. This guy is the son of the vice president, and he's sent over on an errand from his dad to get this deal to just basically, he learned from Hillary. So that's what's going on, folks. That's exactly what's going on. And I submit to you, Jim is absolutely right. China they're an enemy, from fentanyl to social credit scoring to the erosion of Western culture. And they're using the media and the most corrupt people who are in positions of power in the United States and elsewhere to accomplish their goal.
You notice in parts of Africa, Ghana and certain places, and they've taken all these loans from China. And I was saying for years, guys, you realize if we keep borrowing money from China and not paying it back, one day they're going to be like, okay, we're going to repossess your country now. We'll just start with half. Would you like to keep the West Coast or the East Coast? And that's the fault of the people who are taking trillions from China. Here's another thing. I don't get this. Why do we take trillions of money in loans from China and then give them aid? How about instead of giving them aid money, I don't know, pay off the dang debt. Pay off the debt instead. I mean, that's sort of like aid, right? It's give them the same amount of money we're giving them, except don't call it aid. Call it apply that to my balance, please. No more aid. Apply to balance. Okay, that's just a little note. If the government is listening, and I know they are, but yeah, of course they're listening. They're just not listening.
Well, we're going to take that. We're going to take that as a quick segue here.
Do to me, I'm like a nomad now. So they can be listening all they want, but what are they going to do to me? I'm not going to rob a bank or anything, go to jail. I'm going to just stay homeless, basically.
Oh, jeez. Well, we'll get into that in the second hour. But I also wanted to take that opportunity of applying to balance, supporting Revolution Radio. Revolution Radio, Phil and Jim and me and certainly Dr. True and Dom and Mr. Rowe none of us are paid. Jim Fetzer and all the other people, Mr. Rowe Show, you need to check out Mr. Rowe Show. All the people, 2 studios broadcasting 24 hours a day are not paid. We're not paid to do this.
Go to Revolution.radio. Revolution.radio and sign up for the archives and give them a little money. They're running at a loss now. They need some more users. Yeah, come on. Skip that cup of coffee at Starbucks. Starbucks is not even giving people the fair trade amount for their coffee. Instead spend it on Revolution.radio. Go ahead. Why not? And then just
absolutely. And if
2 scoops of Taster's Choice instead of a Starbucks.
Absolutely, and if you also have any, if you also want some coffee other than Starbucks, we'll maybe get in the second hour of where you can get that here in the Philippines. So especially if you're somebody that roasts, if you're a coffee shop or someone like that. But nonetheless, we've got this is the end of the hour for the story behind the story with Dr. A. Truott. You've got Phil Fairbanks and Major James Burdock here in the Philippines, joined by the owner of 8chan, which is, wow. I mean, the arms on my hair, the hair on my arms, I should say, just stood on end when I saw that teaser video that was released last week. Whoa. Or actually, I guess it was early. Yeah, late last week, early this week. And wow, okay, really, really excited. I know everybody's just getting a little almost impatient, but trust me, maybe Jim will share with us some of the things, if he can, with what's going on with 8kun.
I will.
A lot of people are already. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I noticed people are they're already trying to shut it down, and it's not even up. So they don't even know, I mean, you got that one, teaser and, and they just want to shut it down. Let's shut it down. because you might have something to do with it. You know, and I envy you, Jim. I really do for your persistence and your moral character. I mean, this is just I really admire what you.
Victory, though.
Yeah, this is going to turn into a victory.
If I win again, I'll be out of business.
Yeah, no kidding. But nonetheless, you are on the right side. You're definitely fighting for the right team here. And there's so many people out there, so many people that support what you're doing. I mean, I'm just amazed. And we're not talking about people that are right wing or ultra conservative or whatever they want to, uber, mega conservative, whatever they want to call you, racist, Nazi, whatever it is. It's not that at all. It has to do with, I think 90% of the American public, regardless of political belief, if they knew what was at stake, believe in what you're doing. They believe in it, and they don't want it taken away. And it doesn't take more than a couple of sentences to get people nodding and saying, no, that's just crazy. I think he's doing the right thing. So anyway, kudos to that.
A quote unquote for a quote unquote racist, Jim sure improves the quality of life of a lot of people of color. I just as a half Palestinian person, I'd just like to point that out. As a half Palestinian person who not too long ago was having dinner with one of my coworkers, an Egyptian, and two of his friends from Africa. And, the four of us sat there in a circle and we prayed for Jim and we prayed for the company and all that's going on. And, it just blows my mind that, I'm sorry. I love Jim. I love my work family. You guys have been great. And so it upsets me when I see people, trying to push these blatant lies. It's like, if you only knew, I mean, I got some stories that I can't tell right now. I know you've heard one of them in particular, Burdock, that some of the people against us have done some things to hurt people of color, and are more than willing to, we're just, us brown folks are just collateral damage to people like that. But yeah, no, it upsets me a lot when I hear that stuff because it's completely unfounded. But yeah, absolutely. By the way, I think Rose said because of the issue, we're kind of flying haywire right now because of the because the PG&E thing. So there's no break today.
There was a PG&E problem in Kentucky, and that did affect our network. So we're not broadcasting. We're broadcasting from a different location. Dare I say, closer to Jim. I'm not going to name towns or areas or anything like that, but we're broadcasting closer from there right now. So that's why you didn't hear the typical music and the cycling at the end of the hour. Also, just I'll just
I can do it. Extend your life with Extendivite. See, I talked to the doc about what I called my flippy heart. There we go. Got it.
All right, we're gonna do it. We'll leave it at that. Yeah. Well, no, I do want to. Actually, we should plug Mr. Rowe's show. It is. So let's go ahead and plug that. If you just go into Studio B and look around on his schedule, on the Studio B schedule, go to revolution.radio and check out Mr. Rowe. Jim Fetzer's got a good show. I know, maybe I shouldn't be plugging him, but he normally has an ad on around this time. So nonetheless, you're listening to Revolution Radio. Wow, it's a beautiful day here in Manila. We were out last night, and it was the weirdest thing. It was just like the air turned into water. Wasn't it weird?
Yes.
Remember that?
Like you felt like you're walking.
Talk about 100%.
Wait, what's that?
Yeah, it was basically just air, water. I mean, it was just pure vapor.
It wasn't quite raining. You just walk outside and there's a mist, and then your shirt's wet. It was like that. And not even like, and not the same as in the day when it's humid and you're sweating. No, this is just the humidity in the air was that thick.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place to be in. And again, the people here. A lot of people ask, well, why are you over here? It's primarily the people, and also what Jim was talking about, the fact that this used to be U.S. territory and is probably one of the few ones that has actually become a country, and people here do respect it. Now, this country is I don't want to get into it too much because we are broadcasting from the Philippines, but, some of the issues that I think pretty much all Filipinos agree with, the Spratly Islands. Spratly Islands are a little bit west of here, and hey, they're way out there. You only got so much money for a navy to patrol things, and the Chinese are just going in and taking these islands. They're just taking them. I mean, the islands that are rightfully the property, rightfully part of the country of the Philippines. I mean, and there's an exact count, and it's 8,000. Do you know the exact number? It's 8,600 and some odd islands. I can't remember the exact number.
Yeah, I knew it was somewhere between around 75 and 9K, or 7.5 and 9K, and it was somewhere around there.
Yeah, they should have an exact count. And I would hate to see that number drop and the number of islands that China owns go up one. Right. That should not happen with diplomacy, and that should not happen if NATO is doing its job. None of that should be happening. So, we rarely comment on things that are going on, but I think that that's one thing that all Filipinos can agree upon. We're grateful to be in this country, being guests of this country, and it's a wonderful place. Get a chance, come on out. Spend some money here. Spend some money here because it goes a long way. And the more dollars that get spent here, the better. We don't want much more Chinese money being spent here.
Yeah. Did you hear? In the disputed. I'm going to say disputed sea so that people understand, because some people think there's something called the South China Sea, but there's not. That's the West Philippine Sea. Yeah, I'd never heard it called the West Philippine Sea until I realized, they're trying to steal it, and they're fishing in the waters. And did you know they made a law here? I love this. This is so cool. So if you listen to the radio here, you hear mostly U.S. music and a little bit of what they call OPM, original Filipino music, and lately a lot of K-pop as well. But get this, they made a rule where in the West Philippine Sea, damn it, in the West Philippine Sea, OPM, original Filipino music, must be played. Must be played. They're not going to play. They're not going to play, American hits and K-pop. I love that. It's just kind of like a settlement. That's so cool. I love that.
It's not censorship in any sense. We're not talking about Britain in the 1960s. When you've got all of the offshore platforms and pirate radio going on. That's an expression of free speech. And I would love to. Believe me, that's something that just fascinates me regarding free speech. And that whole time, that concept of saying, well, we don't want rock and roll played on British Airways, and all of these guys getting together and saying, no, you know what? Well, we're just going to go out 12 miles out, and we're going to play it anyway. Yeah. And if you guys look into the history of pirate radio, I think that is because the internet is getting shut down to the extent that it is. The fact that the infrastructure is owned so much by Amazon, companies like Amazon, the ability for not the government but the media giants to arbitrarily shut anyone down, and these rogue groups who won't identify themselves, who claim to be, for the force of whatever Antifa is or whatever group that they're espousing, which I suspect they're just espousing money. Okay, they're no different. I mean, I just want to see where these people live and how much money they make. I really don't think that these people really, truly care anymore and are even willing to listen. They're just acting, and a lot of what they're doing is illegal. So giving money to people, or those people paying other people to do things, is really bad. So we need to take a deep breath and understand who controls communication, because you have to have the infrastructure in order to have free speech these days. And of course, in San Francisco, you wouldn't be able to go out and say certain things on the street. For example, in New York City, you can get arrested, and the fine, I was surprised at this, up to $500,000 for suggesting that an illegal immigrant go back to, or pointing out the fact that somebody is illegal.
You don't have to tell them to go back. All you have to do is call them an illegal alien, or if you own a business and refuse to serve an illegal alien, you can face some pretty hefty fines and fees and all these issues. Yeah,
I mean, that's ridiculous. So, I mean, even on the streets. So where do we go? Okay. I mean, the last frontier, of course, you've got space and the ionosphere. Okay. Radio. Radio is worked before. Radio works now. We're on the radio. We can broadcast and have this rebroadcast over FM radio to very remote areas in Australia. Hello, folks. And we can get into very remote areas up in Norway, Sweden, and Canada. But it takes a lot of people and a lot of time and equipment, and it's one of those deals where you have to have, that's what it takes. So the only other thing to do is to go shortwave. Now, shortwave radio, for you guys, I mean, probably most people listening to this are familiar with it. Also what they call ham radio. A shortwave radio is something that you can use to transmit to people halfway around the world, and depending on the time and weather conditions. There's a bunch of different factors there. And I looked up what it would cost and I mean, obviously this wouldn't be, I researched what it would cost, went into the FCC, got all of their documents, made a couple of phone calls, asked a few questions because it's not exactly clear. But there's one thing when you finally get the document that is buried between all the other ones, which they warn you, and they put it in bold at the very bottom of it. They say, "We warn you," okay, and that's their words. We warn you that this is in order to fulfill the requirements that we've, and then of course they dot it with all the document numbers, and of course you have to go to all of these different places. It's a maze. It took me 6 hours to figure out what it would cost. And, generally kind of getting up with an idea. It's going to cost between $1.2 and $1.6 million if you did it in the United States. And most of it, the greatest portion of that, is sent to the government. Now, I submit to you, those are all just fees and taxes and licensing and certifications and all of this stuff. They're doing it because they don't want people to broadcast. And here's something else we need to talk about, especially since California is on fire. Wow, folks. I need to tell you. Again, okay, we talked about this last week, and now California is on fire.
And 2 years
ham
ago.
radio is extremely important. It is imperative that you have amateur radio operators backing up and serving for emergency broadcasts, because when everything else goes down, you've got those people, and that's what they're there for. That's what they're trained for. People go to monthly meetings. They do test broadcasts. They do and train for all of this. And the state of California has now declared, and it was actually somebody who wasn't elected, and this was somebody that just decided that this was going to happen. I think I mentioned her name last week. But actually, what you want to do is go to Gun Guy TV. He's a ham radio operator, and go to him on YouTube and just check out his video he posted last week on this, folks. This is insanity. They are taxing. They're making ham radio basically impossible. All the repeaters. They're not making it illegal, but they're making it impossible to operate.
No, in certain states you can't buy the equipment anymore, too, though. Like a friend of mine in Tennessee was talking about he had 2 days left to decide whether he wanted to get this ham rig before it was literally illegal for him to buy it in Tennessee. And I don't know if that's all ham rigs or just the one he was looking at, and I think somebody from another state was talking about, well, I need to get a ham radio now before. Because and I guarantee you that's because after they shut down all the image boards and there's nothing left but the China and CIA and corporation moderated social media networks, the only way to get a signal, get a message from here to here without government interference and corporate interference is going to be something like ham radio, shortwave, But absolutely.
I mean, even the receivers, are the best receivers that were made. I picked one up before it was discontinued, and the one I picked up was about $400. I mean, this is a really, really good receiver with the tuning that you need, and it's made by Sony. And I picked it up, and then I went 2 months later, because I knew it was going to be discontinued. 2 months later, I went online, and it was selling for like $1,000. And then I don't know if you went online now. I think it's probably at like $1,500. But it's a piece of equipment that's going to last a really long time. It's unfortunate that people aren't manufacturing that anymore. But still, there's enough of them out there. And you get enough people repeating, you can repeat on different frequencies. So, but the war is on for that as well. But in reality, it doesn't take that much money to buy a transceiver and to up your wattage and to find a good location, and you can erect temporary antennas. You can do this on the go, and you can do it in the style that they did back when the 1960s, when Britain wasn't allowing rock and roll. And that's what we're going to be resorting to. The other thing is, nano satellites. That's about the only thing else that you can record. But those things are primarily, what you want to do with those things is transmit access codes, so that you get off the internet for a period where you actually have to reference something through your own network. That's your own network, meaning something that goes from A to B that doesn't have Amazon involved.
Yes.
So you see what I mean? And so you're not going to be able to transmit a huge amount of bandwidth, but you can transmit code. You can transmit passwords. You can transmit algorithms. Which ones are going to be used?
Getting at. I get it.
Yes.
You're talking about Amazon is actually being like the man in the middle, like an attack.
Yeah.
It's like an attack vector for people to like be a man in the middle and then censor what you're getting out of it. And
absolutely.
we are in that situation to be able to do that, because so much of the data goes through their network now.
If you own the pipes,
that's why we need a nano. Jim, that's why we need a nanosatellite or a shortwave broadcast.
Well,
at least to transmit codes from A to B.
I have an S-Stage model rocket D engine. Maybe
okay.
we can. I can take the orbital transport out of my closet and see if we can launch it.
We'll get it up. We'll get it up there. Let's shoot a lizard up there too, just to take care of things. But the thing is that I think that you could. That's the question, because they have been shooting these nanosatellites up that do have the capacity to take a shot and transmit from A to B without the internet being involved. Otherwise, you're going to have to go to. I mean, you could do things as simple as a one-time pad on shortwave radio, which is still being used today. Number stations use it. But the point is in order to have a truly secure network, you need to have something that is not controlled by. This is a portion of the internet that you completely control from A to B, and that's something that nobody else can.
I put a business plan together to do this in 2001, but I never got any investors for it. But there's got to be someone out there with a wild hair.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the climate is right now, and I think especially people that are getting mad that, hey, listen, they're not selling receivers, they're not selling transceivers. You get some people that are really out there. So, yeah, if there's somebody, especially here on Revolution Radio, interested, go ahead and email me, Burdock, at thegoldwater.com. Yeah, Burdock at thegoldwater.com. And I'd be happy to listen to anyone that has any anyone. I'd be happy to listen to anyone or entertain ideas for a collaboration, a rebroadcast, any way that wherever you are in the world, to figure something out. Maybe re-listen to this broadcast, what we're doing, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about this more next week with True. But, yeah, it's certainly imperative. We need to get at least one little tiny sliver of communication from A to B that we own, that the good guys own, that isn't controlled by the government, that isn't controlled by Amazon or China. So, yeah, shoot me an email if you have any ideas. That's Burdock at thegoldwater.com.
I need to get you I'm sorry, I talked over there. It's Burdock, Burdock at thegoldwater.com. Burdock, I need to get you in touch with an artist friend of mine, Shane Watson of silverladder.com. I've known him virtually online for like years before I, met him in the flesh. But if you're familiar with alternate reality games, he did this intricate ARG he and a few people put on, and has a long interest in code breaking, cryptography, and steganography, and number stations, and all this stuff. And oh man, I mean, like, I would love to see like you and him and me just like kind of talking, like you were talking about, some of the stuff we've been talking about the number stations and things. Because yeah, absolutely, I think there's a lot that can be done with the ARG format, for instance. I was part of this the Silver Ladder art/arg kind of thing, and once again, it involved like community and teamwork and code breaking, and it was a really interesting experience. Everybody involved not only learned a lot and had a lot of fun, but bonded to the extent that it's like 10 years later. No, is it? No, it's almost 10 years later. And we're, it used to be Ventrilo, and now we're on Discord. 10 years later, we're all friends on Facebook and have moved from Ventrilo to Discord. But yeah, no, I mean, like, stuff like that can be, it can be a really powerful thing.
Well, yeah, there's certainly a need, especially in this day and age. Nobody's being punished for anything that's happening. Nobody is being punished for selling data. For God knows what they're doing with all of this. And I've seen situations where people are even talking about Tor networks, and I'm a big fan of Tor. A huge fan of the Electronic Frontier Foundation. One of the members over there, who I know, is just a brilliant man, and he's one of the people that invented Tor. So yeah, the EFF, despite whatever political beliefs, I mean, you got people from all sides over there, but they're all about privacy, and even they realize the need that you're still running that data over pipes that other people own. So they can interrupt it, they can do whatever they want with it, but as long as you can send a password that isn't on their network from one place to another that's changing, I think that would be helpful for people who are extremely security conscious. So it's an idea. I think that it needs to come to, perhaps it's already out there. Well, we know the CIA uses it, and they have been for a very, very long time, sending messages. It is an unbreakable message. Simply, if you just look at number stations and one-time pads, it's probably the best encryption there is on Earth today, because it's there's nothing to break down. Unless you beat the hell out of the guy and you torture him, and he breaks. And he tells you when they're receiving and on what frequency. So
right.
Aside from that, and, that's what they're going to have to resort to. I mean, I don't know. It's scary that we're talking about this. It really is. It's a pretty scary thing, but it's needed. It's something there. But the very fact that we need to entertain these thoughts is sad, but necessary. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and reiterate it. Anyone interested, go ahead and email Burdock at thegoldwater.com regarding any sort of SSB or satellite. If people are serious about it, CIA not apply, really. We don't want to partner with them. Okay.
Guy calls up.
Hi,
I'm with a company. I'd like to invest. Oh, which company? The company.
Yeah, I mean, we really aren't interested. And the thing is that this is not something that having anonymous, secure communication is really important for so many reasons. It's take a look at the people that are in Venezuela right now. Okay, take a look at Christians in the Arab world. They are their communication to look at people in China. There are a lot of people that just really don't have any way of communicating important information to the outside world. Atrocities, human rights violations, genocide. So,
you're talking about how they had to communicate in the underground in France in World War II, and you're talking about bringing that to America. How far have we gone down the road towards becoming communist China in America?
That's exactly it. That's why I'm just astonished. It's sad, but that's where we are. I mean, logically, that's where at least my mind goes as far as communication secure communication. That's the only thing that I can come up with, is that we have to go back to number stations and possibly a satellite that you get thrown up. And those are, I've looked at those, and I know $250,000 isn't cheap, but $250,000 for a satellite. I don't know. That could be crowdfunded, but then again, who wants to crowdfund? And by the way, CIA not apply. Okay. China, we don't want your money. No Chinese money.
We'll loan
no
you
yen.
Equipment. Just don't open the black box, please. Right.
Yeah, we don't want any yen. Okay, no, or yuan. I'm sorry. But
yeah, you want, yeah.
Yeah, we don't no one.
Can you still get a receiver at C Crane? C Crane has excellent radios. I think you can still get a shortwave receiver there.
There's a bunch of receivers out there. There's a bunch of people who are enthusiasts. And the beautiful thing is that a lot of that equipment people take really good care of. There's a lot of marine equipment out there. And ham radio people are really, they're a different breed. They take care of their stuff, and I mean, if you sail, you really depend on your ham radio. You really do. There's a whole network of people that talk especially if you're going blue water. There are people there's a whole huge network of people out there. And I'll tell you what, that's a group of people that would be really, really upset. And they are, I'm sure, because their lives depend on it. And they're messing with safety at sea. And they're messing with people in California having emergency communication with hospitals and fire right now. So human lives are actually at risk at sea and on land, and they want to shut it down. And the point is that, you know what, it's going to take a long time to train. You can make these things mobile. So, the backstay on, say, a 45-foot boat, or say a 50-foot boat, going up to, say, a 70-foot mast, you've got, a good 100 feet of antenna there. That's typically what you have on a sailboat. And you put your transceiver down below. And, again, you have to pick the right time. And it depends on the weather. But you can talk to people halfway around the world. So, and there's tons of people out there that really depend on it. So, I don't know. Use a whole network of people. It's already in place. We're not talking about starting anything new. We're talking about needing it, because when is the point where we need these people, amateur radio operators, ham radio operators, who are licensed, and in some cases, then if it's an emergency, you can use a ham radio legally when it's an emergency. You can be trained by the captain of a boat, and if he signs off a certification, if you learn Morse and you're on a voyage, the captain can certify you to use a ham radio during the voyage, but you are required to go and do formal testing afterwards. So there's there are many circumstances under which people can operate these. And I submit to you that sending messages from A to B, extremely important messages. You can't. You're not going to be watching porn on this stuff. Nothing's going on there. But you're going to be sending algorithms. You're going to be sending code. You're going to be sending passwords and encryption methods on a regular basis, and that's what's going to keep a network secure from Amazon and China and at this point the U.S. government. So, folks, you are listening back.
Merged into one giant super mega corporation.
Yeah, I don't know who decided that they want to be the CEO, or who the group of. What's funny is that weren't all these people that are voting against Trump, weren't all these people protesting against the 1%ers? And now their God is to make sure that one person controls everything. One company, one board of directors. Insanity, folks. I don't know. We got to take a look at this, step back, and understand how quickly we got to this point, because I kind of saw some of this coming at 10 years ago. I mean, I think we all did. but look how fast. Now we're talking about the NBA in China. We're talking about HN getting shut down. Getting branded in such a way, and the government's not involved at all. All they could do was ask Jim Watkins to go testify in front of Congress, which he did, and they didn't expect him to show up, but he was there. And shut down 1 million people, shut down associated businesses. Anything that he's touched has been at risk. Other companies have been shut down. All the upstreams have been shut down. People that have agreed to engage in business with you, they've been shut down and targeted. It's absurd. And the government, no laws were broken. And all of this was done by pressure from the media. The media has more control, more power than the government in situations like this. And somebody ought to take a look at how they're able to do that. We need to take a look, the government needs to take a look at what they're doing illegal. It is what they're doing, shutting down legitimate businesses, censoring millions of people, which should be the government's job, if anything. I hate saying that. It shouldn't be anyone's job. But if anyone wants to do it.
If somebody's going to do it, you're right. It shouldn't be like that. Basically, corporatist rule is fascism, isn't it? Isn't that what Italian fascism was? It was when the government and the corporations.
Welcome to the 21st century. We are
Japan and Italy.
We are in the most powerful fascist state on earth.
Yep, pretty much.
And people didn't even see it coming, and they're just letting people because they don't want you to step in their safe space, and you're going to safe space yourself away to like total fascist dictators. And it's not coming from the president. It's going to come from the other body. The president isn't even taking a salary. It's just a still public service. He's like Eisenhower. I got to shut this off. I got a bad signal.
Yeah, I think you're going through another dead zone.
Oh, maybe that's you guys. Maybe I get to talk for a while.
Is Darth Vader there in the vehicle with you, Jim? Tell it for Palpatine I said hi. I'm hearing this.
Well, I can't get a bank account. I get a place to live. I'm already in this social situation, whatever you call it. Yeah. I'm like being pushed off planet here. Beam me up, Scott.
And Jim, I'm first fan if you don't.
Let's mind revolution.radio, because you guys need it. That's helping. This is really helping. Revolution.radio. Go there and sign up for the archive, and you can hear all the stuff. You can hear me talking trash with Mr. True the other day. It's in the archive there. And you can hear Mr. Rowe's show and Dr. Rowe and Dr. I don't know what everybody is.
We've got a chat room.
You can hear all their shows.
Yeah.
Studio A and Studio B.
So 2 shows, 24 hours a day, 2 shows going on at every moment. Plus, head to revolution.radio and you can click on the chat, the chat room, and that'll open up a second window, so you can be listening in the one window while in the other window you are, chatting with the other folks who are, I'm looking at the chat room right now. We got 33 people in there right now. The first time I discovered the chat room, it was, afternoon my time, which means, 4:30 a.m. in the morning on the East Coast. And, dude, the chat room was hopping, because apparently the chat room is always kind of hopping, which I find really cool. I love the fact that, there's there seems to be there's a little community. Revolution Radio has a little community, and I find that kind of neat, But yeah, we do appreciate if you support the show by at least listening in and sharing the link. But hey, level up. There's different levels of membership. I think I'm the platinum or whatever. But yeah, I give a little bit every month, just to keep us on the air. And like Burdock was saying, we're not getting paid to do this, but I do pay every month so that we keep getting to be able to, because it does. We're not getting paid, but servers and all this stuff, it does cost money. But yeah, very much appreciative for the folks who do at least listen in and share the link. And especially those of you who are able to give some small amount, either one time or monthly donation. But yeah, because free, as they say, freedom isn't free.
Yeah, and Mr. Roa, I noticed last week we had an additional insert in the break at the hour. And it seems that we've got a way that you can vote for your favorite broadcaster on Revolution Radio, just to show some support. And I don't know if he's available. Mr. Rowe can pop in on that. We are experiencing something in Kentucky regarding a power outage, but so that's why you're not hearing the typical the hourly break announcements. But from what I understand, that's also an option if you want to support the channel, if you want to support Revolution Radio and your favorite radio host, which hopefully you should certainly put in a vote for Dr. A. True Watt, the story behind the story. Can't wait for him to get back. This guy, I'll tell you what, if he ever misses a show, and of course he did last week, and we're filling in this week. When he comes back, folks, you can bet it's going to be one hell of a show. It really is. So yeah, we were talking, and I didn't get any word back. We were talking about there were some rumors about Skinwalker Ranch, and apparently some of the stuff that he's delving into is a little too hot to handle. It's a hot potato. I've been hearing a lot about that, just to segue back into what you were talking about, Jim, being under a social credit score, having your ability to even hire an attorney is most people, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could be anybody, and you'd be able to find an attorney. You'd be able to find somebody to represent you. That's the way attorneys are. But I'll tell you what, wow, that's some scary stuff. That's some super scary stuff when you can't even, when it's so powerful, you can't even find legal representation. And so I that's something that really, really creeped me out, really depressed me.
I've been refused by 30 attorneys that refused to represent me legally. I could be an actor I could be O.J.
Jim, the number is
no. 3 times that about, yeah.
Jim, the number is twice that. It's actually 63 attorneys. On my count, 63. I have a list of all of them. I mean, and you kind of wonder, well, why am I doing this? That's some serious stuff.
I do have an attorney that's helping me, but it's a serious legal bill, guys. I got to get him some, and I'm living out of my car. Boy, oh boy.
Well, that's the other thing. He said,
let's do our best here.
I think it's Nick.
Yeah, I mean, what we can do here is there's a couple of things. There's so many people that
I have a tent.
Oh no. Well, we need to certainly make sure that everything. Well, this is just way too important not to get done. So one of the things, I mean, some of the people that have been asking, you know, people have been asking this for ever since I've been part of the Goldwater, you know, Revolution Radio, is how can we support HN, because, you know, it got out that, hey, listen, you know, especially after HN got shut down, people really realized what a violation that was. And so we're not going to pitch anything overtly, but what we can tell you is that when 8kun goes live, please take the opportunity to take a look at it and understand that that's, you know, in that particular case, more than happy to tell you whatever's going on. We've got people that want.
And if I have someone bold enough to advertise on it, please support the advertisers, because they're there to actually sell something. They're not collecting your information. If it's something you need and an advertiser on 8chan is actually like bold enough to give us some money and advertise, please visit their business.
Right, yeah. Click on the link.
They're supporting American values. Yeah, and you know, it was 3 days after you testified, and you know, that moment when you were walking, you're in front of the Capitol, you're coming out, you just testified, and one of your executives took a friend of yours took a photograph of yours, which is now all over. It is all over. It is the most beautiful photograph. There was somebody that messaged me and said, "Hey, you know, I told you I would frame this," and this guy framed it and put it in a beautiful frame. And I just said, "Well, that's awesome. That's really cool, because it means so much. It's not that you know, you're going to be on the cover of GQ or anything, Jim, but it really is a moment that means a lot to so many people." And so this guy asked to you know, well, can I get an autograph? I'll pay whatever. So certainly that's something. I don't know. There are different ways, but yeah, to me, that image, the fact that there are millions of people that are so concerned about this.
Mail it to me.
Yeah, but there are millions of people that support you, and they just can't publicly, and they can't because your network's shut down.
They
and
can't privately either. I have no way to collect money.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to need to.
For you to send me money, unless you want to send me like a paper check, if people still do. I take checks or cash.
Yeah.
Send me some cash, but I don't have an address yet. So
Right.
Please hold on that.
Well, we'll need to get an address.
So instead, send your money to revolution.radio. They take checks, they take cash, and they take PayPal. So please go to the website and sign up for revolution.radio.
There you go. There you have it, folks. So, yeah, pretty vicious stuff going on right now. Jim Watkins, again, joining us. Thank you. Owner of 8chan NT Technology and the dun-dun-dun, soon-to-be online, heart-beating, new last bastion of free speech on the Internet, 8kun. That's 8kun.net. So keep posted. I don't know. You know, it's a difficult situation when you're having to redo so much.
Friday on this show. You know, let's use this show to announce it's going live. I hope by next Friday. But I keep saying that, but then somebody just knocked off my network access. My machines are ready to go on. I just need to cart them around in this trailer I'm pulling and lordy, I love American cars. I've got a trailer behind me, and I'm already almost I'm in Livermore now, and that's what a Lincoln can do. 120 miles an hour with a trailer. Let me tell you. I love American cars.
Oh man! Hey, you know what? It'd be great if we could get a satellite with a gimbaled mount on it, and you could just that way, and a power unit of some sort, and we could just have people drive around the United States or the world, and that would be your colo. It'd be a lot easier.
Missile system. We'll put it on trains.
Yeah, there we go. Absolutely.
That might be cheaper than getting a CB license here. We'll put it on
we could rip apart a news van. So anyone that actually owns any recently decommissioned but still working satellites out there, anyone that owns some space, I used to deal in that. I dealt in SatMax 5 for a while. Where most everybody hops off, but the satellite's still working. There's a decent amount of bandwidth there. Anyone that has a decommissioned satellite contract, go ahead and email Burdock at thegoldwater.com. That way we don't have to launch one.
Really means donate it. I've got the business plan for it. If someone wants to donate that to us, we're like in like Flynn. There's a little bit of a lag, but it's not that much. It's not the moon.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, there's some special things with satellites that you have to, there's some latency and, solar flares and things like that, and of course the weather, and then, the physical condition of, the satellite bouncing around if it's mobile, whatnot. But, I'm not joking on this one. Anyone with any, they're regular contracts. I've had a couple of contracts with Hughes, and they're regular contracts. So you can, anyone with satellite contracts or, decommissioned satellite contracts, give us a call or just email Burdock at thegoldwater.com. That along with people that are willing to broadcast via shortwave, that would be great. Legally, we'll do it legally in every country. So we're 100% legal. We're not soliciting any illegal transmissions, anything that would violate FCC regulations or rules. Maybe we should start swearing now.
Hey, you put up your fingers and you take the oath. But repeat after me. I promise to do my best, to do my duty to God and my country, to be square and obey the law of the pack. Now, come on, everybody can be a Cub Scout if they want to be. Let's do it.
There we go.
That.
If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Jim Watkins, owner of 8chan NT Technology, and what's going to be live, the 8kun. Now, Jim, why don't you explain kun, because KUN, people were scratching their heads on that, people who aren't familiar with Japanese. Can you explain to our listeners why you chose kun?
Well, we have a lot of weeb users. Weeb means they like Japanese culture because they like the cartoons. The cartoons are awesome. The Japanese cartoons are great. They call them anime. And anyway, kun means mister, but it's like informal. It's not like sir or master.
Exactly. It's not son.
Informal.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, bro. Hey, kun.
Exactly.
Like that. It's a nice thing. And
whereas chan was more diminutive. It's like, yeah.
And I want to leave you guys with this, that every idea is an incitement. Don't forget that. And our country was founded on incitement. What do you think the Declaration of Independence was? That is the biggest hate speech document on earth.
It was treason until we won the war.
In your face, George. Hi, I'm Thomas, and in your face. That's the Declaration of Independence. Okay? And by the way, we're fighting you, and we'll meet you at Concord. That's what the Declaration of Independence is all about. So don't let them take that away from you, because too many people have fought and died for it. And if they are literally saying that they want to remove the First Amendment and Second Amendment from the Constitution. I'm pretty sure you have to dissolve the United States of America to do that, because all of the other amendments can be repealed except for the Bill of Rights. You know, that's the first 10. As I said, 12 to be ratified, and only 10 were ratified. The other 2 that were ratified were like special rights for congressmen. You know, who needs that? So they weren't ratified. But we can't let them take that away. Don't let it happen. You know, just speak up. You don't have to do anything bad or anything. Just use your mouth. When somebody says, "Oh, you're in my safe space," well, hey, move your space out of my way. It's like I used to smoke, and I'd go outside to smoke, and someone would say, "Hey, why don't you go somewhere else and smoke?" I said, "Well, hey, the no smoking area is inside. Go inside if you don't like me smoking. Go away." Speak up a little bit, or you're going to lose your rights. All of this safe space stuff started with no smoking in elevators. And they said, we got away with that. What's the next thing we can do? And they just keep pushing. And they don't give up. And you will just lose your rights. You won't have anything to say. You won't be able to say it. Yeah, you know, here, I'm shouting because I've been driving my car, and it's just one of those things, because I'm getting, like, pumped up now. I'm not going to sleep all night now. Wow. But, anyway, I'm on my way to get some free syringes in San Francisco. Woof,
there
woof.
You go.
Yeah, okay.
There you have it.
That's all right. I got some cardboard to lay out. We're good. I'm not going to sleep on the street tonight, guys. I promise. I got plenty of friends. I never have to sleep on the street.
You've got lots of friends. You've got lots of friends, Jim.
But anyway, I'm gonna have to navigate here and stop playing with the car. Okay. So take care, guys.
All right.
Don't forget. Hopefully, we'll be announcing we're going live on the next show.
Yeah,
and
this is
in the meantime,
the time that the music
your
should be playing.
Privilege cast on Revolution.radio.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We've been talking to Jim Watkins, owner of NT Technology. Thank you so much, Jim. He's on his way, hauling obviously a bunch of equipment, making sure that that his channel goes back online. This is a man who is dedicated to free speech, and somebody that so many people admire. And I can't tell you. It's a long story about the number of things that this man has done and what he's gone through in order to be able to say what he just did. So thank you again, Jim, for being on the show. Please, again, support Revolution Radio. Go to the archives. Go to revolution.radio and support the archives. And we'll be back next week with Dr. A. True Ott. And I just can't wait to hear what he's got to say, because, 2 weeks is always, he's always just, they're always the best shows. And hopefully we'll be able to get Jim back on and we can do it live on Revolution Radio. So Phil and I are going to be coming up on the end of the hour. This is one of these situations where we normally cut off right about now, but we're going to cut off right at the what I'm looking at is about a minute and a half, about 90 seconds. So, wow. That just chills me, some of the stuff that Jim was talking about, not being able to get a lawyer, not being able to, just what he's endured. And keep in mind, this man has committed no crime. And so many people, I mean, they shut off millions of people as a result. And it's, when I say they, it's the media or the people controlling the media. So, Phil, we'll just shut it off right at and pass it over to Ro on the dot.
Thanks again, everybody. But yeah, once again, always great to be on the show. Until next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mr. Rowe, if you want to just bring us in the smooth, I'll just keep talking until the end. I hope I hope Shepard Smith has somewhere to go. I'm sure he's got the last time that happened, somebody went over to NBC, and I think they got an $80 million contract, and they bombed. So people typically out are one, I mean, they're pretty hard to hire, I would think, unless this is some form of money laundering, which, hey, by the way, next week we're going to be talking about the Netflix deal that the Obamas had. And is Netflix involved in some sort of money laundering conspiracy with the previous administration? They just want to do it on the up and up without the dark, they learned from the Dark Clinton Foundation. But, I'm just going to keep rambling here until Roe decides that it's time.
He says we're over, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's over? It's done?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, awesome.
Next time, guys.